Well, I'm not sure if you know this. My dad, retired master sergeant,
Yeah.
and only 3 years of my life I didn't live on an Army post was 10th, 11th, and 12th grade in Tyler, Texas. My dad had retired in '79, and so now it's 1982. I'm in high school, and I woke him up on a Saturday morning. I said, "Hey, Dad, I need you to sign this." He goes, "What's that?" I said, I went down to see a recruiter. I'm joining the Army." He goes, "What?" He goes, "You're going to go to college, son." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, you go in the Army, but you're going to go as an officer." And I told him, I said, "Dad, you've been talking bad about officers,
They stopped knowing you.
and now you want me to be one." And he goes, "Yeah, I don't like those bastards." He goes, they only work half as hard as NCOs, get paid twice as much money," which is not a true statement. But so, my dad told me.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Open Discussion Podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. A 3-star retired lieutenant, retired JT Thomson. He was, in my opinion, if you ask me, West Point graduating class of 1776. Yeah, I had to put that in there, right? So 77. So a red leg served in different capacity from the battery command all the way up to the 3-star level. Served as the commandant for cadet at the West Point. Commander of the 1st Cavalry Division over at Full Hood, and of course deputy commander for Full Hood and 3rd Cav as well. He served at the commander the Allied Land Command over at NATO. Served as senior mentor consultant. Served as the chairman of the board for the United States Field Artillery Association. I think I'm a member, so I got to verify. I think I'm a member. I just got to verify that. Leadership consultant, the mentor, coach. As I said. Just a very impressive human being, really, sir. If I just remove just the rank from it, I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show. Since we met years ago, and I can realize you commanded the brigade that I serve as a brigade CS4. You know, it means a lot to me. But thanks for your leadership. Thanks for your guidance. Thanks for your coaching. Always been there to make sure the troops are taken care of. I really appreciate you, sir. Everybody who know of you speak very highly of you. And it's a testament to who you are as a person, but most importantly, you as a leader. So I want to say I appreciate you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. How you doing through this?
Sam, thanks for having me on, and I want to go right back at you and say thank you for incredible years of service. And as Command Sergeant Major of the best field artillery brigade in the Army.
Absolutely, sir. Appreciate you.
And you worked your way all the way up through all those positions. And I can't verify your membership in the field artillery. It's pretty easy for me to do that, so just let me know.
I appreciate you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir. Just want to get right into it, sir. I know you got a lot of things going on. I've always liked to ask folks, who wore the uniform for you, serve about 38 years within the service. That's a huge amount of time to serve. Time at West Point, and then of course your active duty time, and then you still serve in different capacity. The first question I want to ask you: what was the motivational factor behind it? Because you could have gone through, ROTC or coming as enlisted, they go to green to gold, but you chose West Point. What was the overall as far as contributing factor for that, sir?
Well, I'm not sure if you know this. My dad, retired master sergeant, and only 3 years of my life I didn't live on an Army post was 10th, 11th, and 12th grade in Tyler, Texas. My dad had retired in '79, and so now it's 1982. I'm in high school, and I woke him up on a Saturday morning. I said, "Hey, Dad, I need you to sign this." He goes, "What's that?" I said, I went down to see a recruiter. I'm joining the Army. He goes, "What?" He goes, "You're going to go to college, son." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "Well, you go in the Army, but you're going to go as an officer." And I told him, I said, "Dad, you've been talking bad about officers,
They stopped knowing you.
and now you want me to be one." And he goes, "Yeah, I don't like those bastards." But he goes, "They only work half as hard. They only work half as hard as NCOs, get paid twice as much money," which is not a true statement. But so, my dad told me, and we didn't have a lot of money. And West Point, you get in, you get the full ride. 4 years, you pay for it, and a commitment afterwards. But so I applied, and it was tough, and I had to get a medical waiver. I'd take the SAT about 4 or 5 times, and what really helped me out, I was a good football player. And they don't really, they recruit, but they don't offer scholarships. So, but they let me come in, and I had to work hard on academics. So that's the story of how I went to West Point. I was going to do my 5 years and get out. And I enjoyed it though. And I stayed.
That's a good decision, I think. And so I did ROTC for about 3 years, as I told you earlier, and that for some reason I appreciate the Army accession process, how an officer go through no matter which, the citadel, whatever the case may be, the commission. Because coming up as a non-commissioned officer, right, we have this preconceived notion, oh, just a lieutenant, they have no problem, they have no idea what's going on. But I had a huge appreciation to fully understand how officers go through the entire session process, through from the ROTC perspective. My question to you here is that once you went through the entire process, it came time for you to select your branch. Why FA? Was that something given to you? Is something you wanted to do? Or how did you come across about deciding I want to become a field artillery officer?
Yeah. I tell people, best decision I made in my life, joining the Army was one, and choosing field artillery. So, I mean, it's a tough decision. I was going infantry. They banged that in your head. The night I filled out the little card, I put a field artillery first. Everybody was shocked when I got it. But here was my thinking. So back in the mid '80s, go to Sound of the Guns. It was all about the Cold War, fight the Russian hordes, Warsaw Pact nations. Go to Germany. Half our army was there, and we had 7 field artillery brigades, 4 Navardis over there. A lot of artillery, but so I was going to be in the heavy side of the world, not the light side of the world. And I didn't know I wanted to go to Europe, but I like options, being able to do different things. You can join field artillery. You can be a forward observer. You can be down in the gun line. You can be in the fire direction center. There's so many different options that you get to do. And I enjoy that. You can go heavy in artillery. You can go light. You can go rocket. You can go cannon. And I like all those options. So that's the reason I went. And it played out, and still true today.
So after commissioning, that you had any preconceived notion in terms of what you thought the Army would have been when you first got to your first assignment, right? Because we all have this preconceived notion. This is what we think it's going to look like until we get there. And realization hits you in the face. Be like, oh, okay, this is a whole different ball game. Now, how was your transformation, transition into when you graduated West Point? You went through probably OBC, and then from there into your organization. How was that for you? But then, most important, how was it? Because different timing, as I said, back in 1700s, things were a little bit different back then. How were they able to really accept into the organization? How were your transition to the organization? If you looking back now,
Right. Well, you know this from being an ROTC, and people always talk about out there in the real Army, and the real Army, because West Point ain't the real Army.
yeah,
Everything's perfect. You got the cadets for 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and but out the real Army is different. There's problems, adversity, and things like that. But so you go out there, and at West Point, I'd have to deal with maintenance. Now all of a sudden, you got all these big old howitzers that take a lot of love and care. You got to take care of them. You got soldiers with problems. You got to help them out and their families. So the best advice, though, when you go out there, listen to your NCOs. They've been around. You're a new person walking in, and you're not going to wow anybody with your battlefield tactics, your technical competence on a howitzer is
yeah,
brand new, especially in artillery. So those smokes and those gunnies and those gun chiefs, man, they're bread and butter.
yeah. That's a good way to put it. So I think it's unfair, right, to a brand new lieutenant coming to an organization where you have a platoon sergeant. For us, being smoke gunner who have years and years of experience, and drop that lieutenant in this. There you go, you the platoon leader, or you or the fire direction guy. Figure this thing out. Were there any challenges for you from a personal standpoint, not just professionally, but that relationship between you and that platoon sergeant, you and that NCO, but also you expected now, like you said earlier, right, to lead up platoon, make sure everybody's good to go, but also train, coach, guide, mentor, but also build that relationship. Was there anything you kind of faced that was somewhat challenging to you as a brand new lieutenant going through the process?
Yeah, it's scary, and even to this day, Sam, I'm at West Point. I think the biggest thing lacking, and even in ROTC, cadets around officers a lot. They get comfortable with lieutenant colonels, even generals, and all of a sudden they show up as a second lieutenant, and you're dealing with platoon sergeant who's been around for more than a day. Those things, and it's scary, but you have to develop that relationship like you do with anybody else, especially that platoon leader, platoon sergeant. And for me, it's a little easier. I was more comfortable around NCOs. I grew up around them all my life. But Smoke Collins, Joe Collins, later became a command sergeant major. Gunny Andrew Ward later became a command sergeant major. Those guys took me underneath their wing. And all you have to do as a lieutenant is listen and take that advice. Some lieutenants don't do that. That's when the relationship goes south. And you have to deal with it. I'm sure you've had some hard-headed lieutenants, but every platoon sergeant ain't great either. You got to put that into account. Most of them are top of the world, but every now and then you get somebody who steers a lieutenant the wrong way.
Yeah, I had one by when I was the first time deployed to Afghanistan. He knows exactly who he is. The kid was a pain in my ass, so I'm not gonna lie to you. Refused to get a haircut, hands in his pocket, going patrol, doing his own little thing out there. Guy, you're killing me, guy. But then right before we redeployed, something happened. He got in some kind of trouble. Then he came to me. Hey, first son, I need your help. I said, oh. But it was so good. So you are absolutely right. There are some good lieutenants out there, and you're right. I think listening is key, but we also have to listen as well because the non-commissioned officer also have the preconceived notion that I've been here a little bit longer than you. I have all the ideas. I have all the experience. Sir, you just get out of the way. No, it has to be a combined effort to make sure that platoon, a battery, a troop is heading in the right direction. So as you transition, right, sir, from rank, just want to go about talk about some of your assignments. You serve, I mean, at the 3-star level, and that is amazing. But I mean, your first really responsibility was serving as a battery commander. How was that for you? Because that's a huge responsibility. How was that for you? And when you say across your entire span of career, which command position, you believe was the best for you, and why you think was the best?
This is interesting. It's a great question. In the Marine Corps, lieutenants are called platoon commanders. United States Army, we have platoon leaders.
Yes.
They're not commanders. AR 600-20, you have leadership responsibilities, but you don't get the command authority. First time you get it as an officer in the United States Army is company, detachment, battery, troop, whatever, command. And I only commanded one battery for 15 months, bomb holder Germany. I loved it. It was amazing. But you're right. I had 109 soldiers. You got families, and you're responsible for them 24 hours a day. And you've got to take that seriously. You get a lot of help. I had wonderful First Sergeant Albert Williams. We're still friends to this day. He became a command sergeant major too. You got to train your lieutenants underneath you. And, it's funny because I was 27 years old, but what do we call company commanders in the Army? The old man.
Oh, man.
They first aren't older than the company commander. But, it's a little overwhelming. I tell people, if you're nervous, good. You should be a little nervous. It's a challenging position, but I said, put that aside, do what you've been trained to do. Still listen to your non-commissioned officers, but I love it. And I probably love battery command more than any other command position. I told the chief staff of the Army one time, he passed away recently, Ray Odierno. Yeah, you know him too, artilleryman. And I was working for him after brigade level command. And so he goes, so what do you think? What was your funnest level of command? Brigade or battalion? And I said, oh, brigade by far. He looked at me like I was crazy. He goes, no, man, is the last time where you still know everybody, 100 people, but you're with the soldiers 75% of the time out in the mud. And I said, I agree with all that. You're right. But I said, it comes down to command climate. I said, the command climate I had as brigade commander in the 1st Cavalry Division was amazing. And it wasn't bad as a battalion commander, but it was a 3-corps artillery. It was at Fort Sill. It just wasn't as good as being in a division. And he goes, you know something? I agree with you. You're right.
It perfect sense. I mean, I just segued into my next topic, really, of command climate. Right? When I did my research, is focusing on as far as command climate, but also employee engagement, meaning in terms of the Army aspect, soldier engagement with that superior officer or non-commissioned officer. I've always advocated the importance of command, or just the command team nurturing our command climate, because it can have a huge impact on the organization and its overall mission. What are some steps you think that, from your experience, that a commander at our command can take or implement or adapt to create that suitable command climate? Because now the Army is different, and it's just the demographic. Folks are coming to the Army now because when you came, it was a different timing. Now, the soldiers these days are different because some friends of mine always say, "Oh, the guys are coming in, they're too lazy, they're computerized." No, 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 no. They're not lazy. It's just they just look at things differently. They're much smarter. They can accomplish things a little bit better. But from your perspective, if you would give a commander at any level in terms of how to create that suitable command climate, what would it be, sir?
Yeah, this one's vital. And if you go back to AR 600-20, one of the things you're responsible for as a commander is setting a positive command climate. And you do that as a command team, with your senior enlisted leader, whatever level that's at, first sergeant all the way up to, command sergeant major. In NATO land, they don't even call them command sergeant major. They call them C-cells, senior enlisted leader. I had a warrant officer from Canada who was my C-cell. Oh, you got to, number one, when you take over, you always give people advice. Just don't walk in and try to change stuff. Learn the organization, understand the climate. You need to assess the command climate. And you might have been a staff officer in that organization and you think you know that climate, but till you're there, won't know. So listen, ask, probe, get some advice, consult with your sergeant major. And everybody wants to be on a winning team. Climate, that's part of climate. You have a command climate. Climate's almost it's a major subset of culture. And I have found, it took me 35 years to learn and figure this out. The hardest thing leaders do is change culture. But before you need to change culture, you got to assess it. Climate's a big part of that. You got to get buy-in from everybody in the organization. But everybody wants to be part of a winning organization. Everyone wants high standards. They want a disciplined formation. Sometimes you find units, the audio and your video don't match. They say, here's who we are. But this is who they really are. It's a different thing. So by going back to that climate, everybody wants to be appreciated, right? We all do. We're humans. And if all you're doing is correcting people all day long and or pointing out deficiencies, that gets old. That's not helpful to climate. Everybody wants to be heard. Get everybody's input. Listen and don't shut them down and tell them it's stupid. It might be, but you got to, as a leader, kind of, oh yeah, good point, thanks, kind of thing. So, I'll stop there to see any other questions. I can talk about this all day long, and you could too, doing your research on that. But vital part, it's organizational dynamics. This ain't, the Army's not boxing, it's not golf. It's team. I ain't gonna say it's a sport because what we do is too serious to be called a sport. But it is about the team, and it is the organization, and the dynamics, the climate is what makes organizations tick.
But what will you say to that new commander coming in, right? He or she knows they have 24 months potentially within command. They're trying to make the next rank. They have a vision in their head in terms of which direction they want to move the organization. If this is my command philosophy. This is the direction we're going. Whatever input you got, keep that to yourself. This is where we're going. What will you say to a guy like the guy I've seen it, right? They come in the first, second week, high speed slides and brief. This is my command philosophy. This is what we're going without conducting no assessment at all. This is where we're going. And this so fixed on making the next rank to where sometimes can create a problem internally. What will you say to a guy or girl like that? Are they making the biggest mistake so far, not assessing the command first, as you stated? Be open to feedback over a criticism, being one-on-one conversation with our CSM, whatever the case may be. Because if you just come in and say this is the direction we're going, without conduct no assessment to determine which path you want to go, because I've seen it can create problem. It's a recipe for big issues. So how will you talk to a guy, girl like that to counsel them?
I always tell people take the first 90 days, do an assessment, write it, do a written assessment. You can give it to your boss and say, here's what I want to do. Share with your sergeant major, share it with the key leaders in the organization, get their ideas and inputs. But if you write it before you take the guide on or the colors, you're probably going to fail. People aren't going to buy in on that. So that's what I tell people. I also tell them, everybody wants to take over the best battery or in the battalion. They want to take the best battalion in the brigade. No, maybe you want to take over the worst one.
Yeah.
You got no way to go but up. If you take over the best one,
if you mess it up, you're going down.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But you've got to do an assessment, and you've got to get the buy-in from the leaders. Now, there's sometimes, you take over a bad unit or something. Sometimes we deal with crisis as leaders. There's some big crisis. sometimes you have to move out and go quicker than you had intended to go. You may have taken over a very ill-disciplined organization that's an accident waiting to happen, and you might have to just move out and go faster. It's a perfect world. Take 90 days, do an assessment, write it down, get everybody's buy-in. But it goes back to culture. You're not going to change culture unless it's grassroots from the bottom up. You can't, as a commander, just order things. It'll happen. People have a bad attitude and they're not going to believe in the organization. So that's my thoughts.
No, that's pretty good, sir. Just, as we explore culture a little bit more, one thing that every command has to implement with the first state command is about that open door policy, right? Because I struggled with it when I was back at 41st. And I was accused at the time as a brigade CSM by some other battalion CSM that the soldier was coming to me directly to talk to me, because I was out there conducting PT. I was out there. So it came a time where those soldiers thought I was their battalion CSN until they came to realize, oh, that's a brigade CSN. So my question here is that open door policy, how you think it should work, because soldiers should talk to their immediate supervisor first to see if they can handle the situation, whatever. But in my case, I had some guys who was offended because the soldiers escaped the battalion command team and came and talked to me and the brigade command team, and they had a problem with it. I said, hey, man, you can't blame me for your negligence, really. If they somewhat escape you and come and talk to me, that means you're not doing something right. But we also encourage the idea, talk to your command team first before you come and talk to us. But I'm not going to suppress them not to talk to me. So from your experience, how you think command can navigate that to where that open door policy is being used adequately in terms of soldiers are talking to the command team first, or how you think that what recommendations do you have for folks currently in command position today?
A lot of thoughts, and things change too.
Yeah.
The way we communicate now in younger days, NOR policy when I came in 1982. You had a scheduled appointment with the adjutant or whatever, and you knock on the door and you report it, and a commander has to have an open door policy. Is generally policy letter number one. So I've seen some very unique ones now that have been retired. Brigade commanders write what the open door policy is. You can text me. Here's my phone number, or you can use this. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Back to what you say, every door policy I ever had a line in there. I encourage you to use this at the lowest level and use the chain of command. We've got so many things: inspector general. You can go to AER. You can go to the chaplain. There's so many different ways. And sometimes an open door policy. Here's what we got to remember: leaders deal with perceptions. Perceptions are reality. To a young private, to a lieutenant, somebody feels disgruntled. They have a perception. It's 9 times out of 10, it's wrong. They just don't understand the big picture. But to them, it's real. And sometimes it takes a leader to explain it. And sometimes, we're not perfect. We're not explaining and telling our subordinates the why, the reason behind things. And that's so important. More important than telling them what, tell them what to do, but why to do it. Don't tell them how to do it. They're going to amaze you with their ingenuity. I think some dude named Patton said that once. You probably heard it. So, but I'm a big believer in using the chain of command. And even if somebody comes in, I'd like their chain of command to come in with me so we can all learn this together. But sometimes that's not the comfort way. And where, I say, go see the sergeant major before you come see me. Let's say Private Zoker comes in to see Colonel Thomson, brigade commander, you and me, nobody else in the room. I encourage you to bring in your chain of command to the sergeant major. No, you want to see me. I bring you in. The first thing I ask is who in your chain of command between you and me. There's a lot of people knows about this. And, we start having a little heart to heart. I said, you owe your first line leader the opportunity to fix this. You talk about toxic leaders? Sometimes there's toxic subordinates. But, and it's perceptions.
Yeah.
There's nothing in my open door policy says I'm not going to share with the chain of command what you shared with me.
Oh, we discuss, yeah.
Thing I tell them. I said, well, you and I are talking about what I've learned in the military, especially the Army. The chain of command is the best avenue to fix problems. The best.
Well, I
And I
agree.
said, I'll go back to the chain of command first. I'm not going to pick up the phone and, call AER. I'm going to have your squad leader take you down there. I'm not going to call the IG. I'm not going to get the lawyer in here and court-martial somebody right now. I'm going to understand this problem, and I'll do a commander's assessment like commander should. But thank you for bringing it to my attention. But you can't beat people up either, because as soon as you beat up one person about open door policy, nobody's going to come in.
Yeah. Fully agree, sir. Fully agree. I want to transition into leadership. We all talk about it because we all talk about leaders and different types of leaders, different leadership style, and you can agree that leaders serving in different positions require a different skill set, really. Because the same approach you took, the foundation is still there, right? As a brigade commander or division commander up to the 2 or 3 star level, a little bit different because now your span of influence is a little bit different. You're going from a direct organization down to strategic level of thinking now, the bigger picture. How will you describe your leadership philosophy, but most important, how did you develop your leadership philosophy?
Yeah. Number one, I keep it really simple, and it's my leadership philosophy. I'm not necessarily saying everybody has to follow this. But I learned at West Point from a sergeant first class in military science class 100, first semester. He said, leaders do 3 things. Number 1, mission accomplishment. Number 2, welfare of the subordinate. And number 3, efficient use of resources. Take care of your equipment, maintenance, right? So, and you know what he said? He goes, we put them in that order, first, second, third, but he goes, you ain't going to do number 1, mission accomplishment, if you don't do number 2 and number 3.
It's
So
odd.
goes, I tell you to work from the bottom up, right? But it's right. We got a warrior ethos, and we kind of got away from it for a while. Mission accomplishment, accomplished mission. That's what we do. That's what the warrior ethos says. And some people get confused with taking care of people and mission accomplishment. There's 2 sides of the same coin. You have to take care of your people. You got to establish a good command climate because you're not going to accomplish the missions. That's kind of a little bit about my philosophy. I keep it simple. And that didn't change. Now, as you get up to higher levels, I was division commander. I bring in new brigade commander to do counseling. I said, dude, you were a great battalion commander. That's why you got selected for brigade command, but it was about your potential. I said, there's very different command of brigade than a battalion. He said, as battalion commander, you're probably 70, 75% down and in with your formation, 20, 25% up and out, a little bit. I said, brigade commander, you're at best 50% down and in. I said, don't worry about that. You've got battalion commanders that are only 2, 3 years your junior. You're very close to each other. They got selected by a centralized board to be battalion commanders. Command through them, trust them. Don't try to run their battalions for them. It's different when you're a battalion commander. The difference between a battalion commander and a captain a lot of times is 12, 15 years of experience. The commanders are not hand-selected centrally. We kind of give every captain a chance to command. Some are strong, some are not so strong, some are just average. We try to pair them up with good first sergeant. If this captain's really good, we might give him a first sergeant his first time. This other captain's a little risk. So, but as you work your way up, by the time I was NATO Allied Land Command, I had 10 corps underneath me. NATO corps, other countries. I'd go once without talking to those guys. And it seems crazy, right? Or when I did talk to, a lot of times it was on BTC once a month. Now, I always gave them as part of my philosophy. When I took command every time, actually as battery commander, maybe not. We didn't have cell phones back then. But here's my cell phone, my personal cell phone, the one that I answer. Not my aide, that's a different military phone. I said, you call me 24/7, anytime, if you need me. I said, just one promise. If you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning, I know you're not calling and telling me I won the lottery. It's probably bad news. I said, promise me that the first thing out of your mouth is, sir, I'm sorry for bothering you. You never bothered me. And I said, call me. And they did. And usually the first thing out of their mouth is, oh, sir, I'm sorry for bothering you. I said, but you have to have that communication. A lot of times people will say, wake-up criteria, commander needs to make a decision. No, we're human. Sometimes you don't need any help from your boss, but you just want to know something bad has happened. Here's how I'm handling it. Roger, I got it. What help do you need? So we don't need anything. I'd call Sergeant Major down. Sergeant Major, I thought Sergeant Major down there. But more often than not, Sergeant Major tell me first. So I don't know if I answered your question. You got me rambling here, but
No, that's all right, sir. No, I think you answered the question pretty fairly, and then you just sparked and stimulate another question that came to mind. Years ago, I know General Retired Perkins came up with the high speed mission command philosophy, the whole 9 yard, right? Empowering your subordinate leaders, decentralized command, the whole 9 yard. As you stated, the farther you go up, you are really detached from the day-to-day activities, right? You have to utilize those commanders in place to run the organization where you provide oversight, but you used to have some kind of relationship with them. But I've seen in the past where even command at the brigade level, even at the division level, try to micromanage everything. It create a problem, not exercising mission command in terms of empowering the subordinate leaders to run that organization. Have you ever experienced that where you have a commander that is completely, I'm not saying being involved is a bad word, but trying to control every aspect of everything within the organization? If you experience that, how did you handle that? Or if you have a commander who's currently serving today or who'll be serving in the future, the importance of, empowering your subordinate leaders, provided he or she is competent, while you provide oversight, you don't want to just completely detach yourself. Give that commander his or her time to lead and command while you provide oversight. Advice we provide to commanders who adapt that leadership style, right? It's my way or the highway. This is how it's going to go.
I've been blessed. I've had great bosses, especially one just above me. Division commanders when I was brigade commander. My brigade commander, I was battalion commander. My battalion commanders when I was a battery commander. Couple points there. There's a difference between micromanagement and micro engagement. There's times where, I had the President of the United States call me as a division commander. The commander in chief called me. And it wasn't over a good thing necessarily. He was great.
The president calling you directly. If the president call you directly, that'd be sums up.
Yeah, but we had a bad incident, accident, lost several soldiers. It still kills me to this day. But I was talking to 4-stars and 3-stars constantly, and my first thought could have been, man, no, there was no micromanagement. They had to answer to others. They needed information. They came to me. So that's one thought. Understand the difference between micromanagement and micro-engagement. There's time where leaders go pick up the phone and call you or come down and visit you or send you an email. That's number one. I have never experienced incessant micro-management, maybe on a specific task or something like this. It was a glass egg for somebody. They didn't want to drop it. Hey, you got this. Give me brief back. How you doing this? I've had a little bit of that. It doesn't bother me. You know why? Because I'm proud of my organization. We're doing great things. If you want to learn about what we're doing, I'm going to show you. Usually by the time you show them, it's like, wow, okay, you guys got it. That's good. That's how you get away from that. Some people need micromanagement. Batteries like that.
Tough love, right? You got to give some tough love.
Yeah, so different thoughts there on that. And I always just appreciate a boss who, when you do need some guidance or some help, or you just need a second opinion, you can have a boss or higher headquarters. You ask them, "Hey, boss, what do you think about this?" And those are kind of bosses I like.
Yeah, that's good with a put it, sir. A leader one of his or her primary role, right, is to develop orders. In terms of you being the leader, you have folks, subordinates, whatever, under your command and your supervision. The developing leaders is essential, right? Because I've seen it done the right way, and sometimes I've seen it done different way, but it's a different approach. How critical you think it is for a leader, you being a 1, 2, or 3-star, to serve as a mentor or coach to somebody else, But most important, the question here is that how important it is, you think, or essential it is for senior leaders to teach, guide, coach, mentor, and develop all the leaders coming behind them.
When I came out of battalion command, I was doing a little AAR after myself and reflecting. I said, I did not spend enough time developing leaders. I was doing it. They had a book, a leadership development program, and all this, but I didn't do it. So I put more effort into as brigade commander, later as division commander, and still I never felt like I did it as good as I should have. a lot of times, mission gets going and, you forget about taking the time to develop leaders. I will tell you that job number one of a leader, I don't care if you're a first sergeant, I don't care at a battery, I don't care if you're the commanding general of NATO Allied Land Command, your number one job is to work yourself out of a job. That is to develop and train your subordinates to take your position and do it better than you. There's this old German general said once, graveyards are full of indispensable people. But you got to make the audio and video match. And so you got to go in and develop leaders. And you have to give them freedom to make mistakes. There's some mistakes you don't make, but give them some rope to practice and try things out. And there's many different ways to do leader development. In the Army, we do it institutionally in the schoolhouse. We do OJT in operational units. But the other one's self-study and self-development. I'd love seeing NCOs getting bachelor's degrees at night. Man, I couldn't have done that kind of thing. And they're going to school on the weekends. But that's part of developing yourself as a leader. Reading doctrine, talking to other leaders. Now, mentoring, I think the Army, we don't use Army doctrine. FM 6-22 is now called developing leaders, not leader development. That's changed. And they made it an active word. And that's what we do. It's active, right? Developing leaders, not leader development. But I think the Army's doctrine, which comes down to our evaluations, both NCOERs and OERs, is counsel, coach, and mentor. And when you're the commander of a unit, you got to be careful about mentoring and developing personal relationships, because that can get seen as favoritism.
Yeah.
Especially inside the organization. So I'm a battalion commander and I got 30 lieutenants. And if I'm mentoring, I better mentor all 30 of them, not just pick a couple that think have high potential. They all deserve it. So I always mentor people, but I've kept that out of the green tab, out of the chain of command. Now, coaching, man, that's money.
Yeah.
I grew up playing football, basketball, and baseball, and I got coached all my life. Coach wasn't necessarily mentoring me to take his place. He was coaching me to be the best player I could be for that position. And he gave negative feedback, positive feedback, pat you on the back, and he was making sure you knew your role as part of the team. So we do that. But no, we've got to do all those. I'm making a difference between coaching and mentoring.
Yeah.
And counseling is part of that. Counseling comes in many forms: verbal, written, formal, informal. General Odiero used to always talk about social counseling, whether it's right arm night or you're out fishing or something on the weekend. Give people feedback, and that's when people are usually most receptive to things. So the last thing about mentoring, you probably get this too. People call you up. Hey, Sam, you're my mentor. They're trying to send me to Fort Polk. I want to go to Hawaii. Can you help me out?
Don't work that down, bro.
You're still worthy of mentoring. And some people call me their mentor and only hear from them like once a year or something like that is when they need something.
Well, it needs so.
It's a relationship. It's generally an informal relationship. And I still mentor a lot of people. And a lot of them now are like generals. To me, it's scary. I'm like, oh, you have to be a general. You don't need mentoring. Sir, I do.
That's a good way to put it, sir. Another important aspect of our service is the family component of it, right? We don't talk about it. The military family is amazing. And for me, on the first phase of my first 10 years, I wasn't married, I had no kids. I was just on. I was going, even doing deployment. You had soldiers, man, I miss my wife. I got to call my kids. Man, let's go on patrol. You'll be okay. I didn't get it until I was the first time I had my first son, and then deploy. I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But just the sacrifice that the military family has to put in, and the time away from family members, and just the thing they has to do. It is, I know it is important, sir. From your perspective, how important you think the military family is, sir?
Military family is a family like no other. It goes back to we recruit soldiers, we retain families, and things have changed. When I came in 1982, over 70% of soldiers were married. None. And I think there was one specialist and service battery had 158 soldiers in there. One specialist that had a wife. And I don't think he had any kids. Every other soldier was single, didn't have cars. So things changed well over 50%. And then you got dual military, and family readiness is as important component as training readiness, as maintenance readiness. Family readiness is part of that. And, we got a lot of programs, but the chain of command has got to take that on and make it work. And it's not easy. At the same time, we got to build resilient families. That's hard. What you can't do is just make a crutch for people too. So, that's your balance. And how do you build resilient families? I wish I had a good answer. It's not easy. There's a lot of people that can help you on that. What's the old adage about caring? Soldiers don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And it starts with caring. Not just about the mission, not just about the soldier, but the family unit. And you do have to care. You can get focused on that mission and be downrange, but there's stuff going on back home. And that's why I always say, when you pick a rear detachment commander, it's like picking a liaison officer. It better hurt.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't hurt you to lose that individual to be the rear detachment commander, sergeant major, first sergeant, if it doesn't hurt for you to not have that person downrange, you picked the wrong person.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big mistake folks used to do, right? Put the girl who they believe is not the right person for the job on the rear detachment, and until we kind of realize how critical that position were. I know you stay in contact, sir, with some folks serving across all 6 branches. If you add the Space Force, what will be your overall assessment of our forces today? We just discussed the Army. I mean, what if you was to assess across the board? What would your assessment be? I mean, things have changed. The mission set still remains the same. But what are some things you think that we are doing good so far?
Yeah. Well, number one, United States military, the joint force. We're the only ones that I think can do true joint operations and get the synergy. I didn't know what synergy was when I was at West Point. I told you I struggled with academics. I asked Sergeant Blackman, who he's a cavalry guy. One day he said, "Hey Thomson, you know what synergy is?" I said,
No.
"No." He goes, "That's 2 + 2 = 5." I said, "No,
It don't add up.
So, but anyways, he was making a point.
Yeah.
I explain that. But you know why Russia's still messing around with Ukraine? Because they don't know how to do joint operations, combined arms operations. They don't. They're doing it in stovepipe. Now we're talking about multi-domain operations, which is different than joint. Joints are all about the services, synchronizing them. Multi-domain is more about effects through different domains. But you got to train that and practice it. We're good at it in the United States, and I think we're the envy. I'm still a mentor, senior mentor for NATO, and 32 nations, and people are envious of us because we make it look easy, but it's not easy. Joint operations, but we got to keep training it, and we got to keep moving. We have to keep innovating, adapting. And all the services, when they innovate and do things on their own, we do that in the Army. We got to think through it about being interoperable as part of the joint force. National too, but as part of the joint force. It does no good for the Army to buy a new radio, high-speed radio, and we can't talk to the Air Force.
We shut
We
here.
need the Air Force. Joint synergies and joint interdependencies. That's what that's all about.
That's amazing. I appreciate you. So I want to discuss your transition because for me, I have this preconceived notion. You were general officer. Transition is pretty easy for you. You just transition. Folks out there, come on, JT, we got a job for you. Nothing to worry about. Don't even go to tab. You be okay. How was your transition? And what are some things you learned from it that you can provide to some folks out there who are considering transition in terms of some mistakes that you made, some things you can improve in, or just some things you say, hey, you might want to consider these things as you try to consider transition?
It's a good one. So my first piece of advice is don't do what Thomson did on transition. I did it in 2020. I was in a country called Turkey, where the Title 10 responsible force was the United States Air Force, not the United States Army. It was during COVID. So I didn't really do any transition. I got back over here to the United States. Yeah, I went to the transition course. There's a 1-week course. They tell you how to be on boards, things like that. There's a huge thing with the VA that you can do now in active duty. They changed that 6-7 years ago. So it's called BDD, Benefits Delivery at Discharge. And so I asked, I'm talking to generals or colonels, senior officers. I said, have you ever heard of VA BDD? And they're like, no. I said, get smart on it. Do that while you're still on active duty and you got access to military treatment facilities. So that's one aspect of it. There's an old joke that says 3s and 4s, 3-star and 4-star generals, 3s and 4s do boards and 1s and 2s got to do work. That's hogwash, you know. I was on a few advisory boards, but transition comes down to this for all of us. I don't care what the rank is. You have had the privilege of serving our nation and doing something that others haven't done. We talk about, civilianizing your resume and stuff, but we have such a privilege and walk away with such experiences, leading, problem solving, building teams. You have so much. When we transition, we need to answer 3 questions. I shared this with you, Sam, when you're not talking. Where do you want to live? What do you want to do? How much money do you want to make? That's different for everybody. You need to make that as a family decision. And ideally, all 3 of those line up, but generally they don't. I want to move to Texas. Well, if I want to make a lot of money, I probably should go live in Washington, D.C. or, Dallas or Houston, something like that. So, you got to figure out what you want to do. Some people, personally, here's how I said, I want to spend a third of my time doing the things that we shortchanged ourselves on active duty. Hobbies, family, vacations, whatever. I'll spend a third year. I'm going to continue to give back to this great organization, United States Army, and I'll give speeches. I'll give LPDs. Whatever. But give back. Chairman of the United States Field Artillery Association. I'm the chairman of the board. Nonprofit. You don't get paid for that. As a matter of fact, a lot of those nonprofits, when you're on the board, they expect you to make big donations. So and then the third one is I'm going to make a little bit of money. And everybody answers that a little bit different. The opportunities are out there, though. Tremendous opportunities. And it's not just because your technical skills. It's the secret sauce that you learn in the military about leadership. And so don't ever take that for granted. You can lead at various levels. You don't need to be the chairman of the board of a big corporation, but people need leadership. Our country needs leadership. Business needs leadership. Good leadership, strong leadership, the kind of leadership we practice in the United States Army.
That's amazing, sir. If you can just talk about the networking and relationship aspect of it, because for me, I was honored for you to reach out. Told me when I first transitioned out, you said, "Hey, Sam, where you at?" I said, "I'm over here." So, all right, I got this guy. I'm gonna contact you with this person because for some reason, I do believe in the military. For us, I would just speak from the CN and NCO perspective. We are living in the ecosystem that to where all of our relationship is with folks who in the service with us. We don't have as far as, a mentor or coach or somebody outside the military, very small amount of people. When we transition, you face a lot of issues, in terms of if you don't have that network built out, that ecosystem or that relationship, it can be a problem for you trying to come out and just transition into the civilian sector for a lot of folks. How important you think that relationship is and that networking? You think while you're on active duty, I mean, it's important to have those relationships outside of active duty as well. So when you're trying to transition, I mean, you have that relationship already built compared to just calling somebody for the first time. Hey, how you doing? My name is XYZ. Can you help me? Right? Without a relationship. How important you think that is in terms of the networking aspect and building those relationships?
People aspect, building your network. But you can build it. And in today's day and age, you don't have to meet for a cup of coffee at Starbucks around the corner. You can do it digitally, on the phone, all kinds of. So there's all these different ways to do that. I'm not going to endorse LinkedIn one way or not, but it is a platform as an example to help you do that. But I'm going to go back and use you as an example here, Sam. You reached out to me to work, and I was so glad. I was honored. I felt good. And you know something? I owe you. I owe every soldier that ever worked for me. And I help people out. And it's writing letters, it's doing online recommendations, it's taking phone calls, it's doing phone calls, giving advice. Maybe I can't help you get the job that you want to get, but the reason I use you as an example, you reached out to me. I probably wouldn't have picked up the phone and reached out to you. And I kind of felt bad. So I tell people all the time now, because of that experience, when I'm out traveling in Europe, because I'm still with NATO and I'm still, with Army forces, and I'm still right outside of Fort Hood. I tell people you are much, much closer to transition than you were to enlistment or commission as an officer. I said, so don't wait till 6 weeks out, 3 months out. You need to start thinking about it. Building your network's a big part of that. I admire you. You've built a network, and a lot of this goes word of mouth too. We talked about Seth the other day, and Seth gave me a call. I knew he just retired, and I actually reached out to Seth when he retired and on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, congratulations! Give me a call if I can help with anything." But
he will.
People don't take it serious.
Appreciate you, sir. Just before I let you go here, I got a couple of fire missions for you. Some rapid fire, expand on ammo. Best duty station, sir.
The first one, Kitzingen, Germany, 2nd Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division.
That's amazing. Best leadership position from battery command over to 3-star level.
Hands down, platoon leader. Fire and platoon leader. Smoke Collins and Gunny Warren.
That's amazing, Rob, because you see your guys every day, every morning. You guys are there working together, but once you go up in the rank, you don't see anybody anymore. That's amazing, sir. Best advice you have ever receiving from a superior officer, and worst advice?
From a superior officer? Does it have to be a superior?
No, it can be anybody, sir. It can be anybody. Superior, peers, or subordinate.
General Odierno used to tell me, never say never say always. There's a little oxymoron in that, never say never, but, especially as a leader, don't ever tell your subordinates, no, we were never doing that. Or don't say, we're always going to do it this way, because you box yourself in as a leader. So that was good advice. This one came from Command Sergeant Major, handwritten. I still have it. He's dead now. It's my dad's best friend. My dad's passed too, but Command Sergeant Major Jim Green. And at the time, he was the commandant of the NCO Academy at Fort Lewis, Washington at the time. He wrote this in May of 1986. He wrote me about 20 different good things, but he said, the one I like, don't pole vault over mouse turds. Choose your issues that you have to take a stand on and think of your soldiers' welfare based on what the outcome will be.
That's a Sergeant Major for you.
Sergeant Major for you, yeah. Worst advice? Sometimes people will say, you need to. It's a good statement, but it's the wrong spirit of what we do. You alluded to it earlier. Hey, you're in command. You got to be thinking about the next job. Make sure you go to AUSA, get visibility, stay in contact with people. I appreciate that advice. Hey, I know that. You don't need to tell me that. But is that more important than taking care of your organization? Don't worry about that stuff. That'll take care of itself. And, a few times as you get that later in life, I'd rather hear my platoon sergeant tell me that as a lieutenant. Hey, sir, make sure you go to hell for a well, because if you don't, you might get back where we are.
It's an implied task. I got to be there. I got to be there. That's amazing. So just one final question, sir. Looking back after 38 years of service, if there's anything you could change, what would that be?
I kind of to it when I came out of battalion command. I'd have been a lot more deliberate and devoted more time to developing leaders. You can't develop everybody in your organization. But, when you're a platoon leader, you got a fire direction officer. Spend time with that guy or that girl to be the platoon leader. Spend time with your XO when you're battery commander, and be deliberate about it. And I look back, and I had some great bosses. My first battery commander, Tom Devine. Man, I didn't like it, but we'd do Sunday afternoon LPDs at his house. I just wanted to go watch football or do something. We spent a couple hours, but I would be more deliberate. I'm not saying I did a bad job. I could have done a much better job, though.
I appreciate you, sir. Thanks again for sharing that, sir. Thanks again for your time, sir. I really appreciate you. I know you got a lot of things going on. You took this time to come out here and pull out some fire mission. I really appreciate you, sir. Thanks for who you are. Thanks for your leadership. Do you have any, you're general officer, right? So, sir, do you have any closing comments?
No. To you, Sam. Closing comments would be never pass up the opportunity to keep your mouth shut. So I'll end it there.
I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate you.